Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Cole. If this is your first video on the channel, feel free to subscribe. But anyway, today we're going to be talking about WandaVision episode 8. The second to last episode, or at least maybe the second to last episode. We'll get to that in a little bit, but let's just talk about the episode in general. I thought it was really good. I thought it was better than last week's episode. Not that I hated last week's episode, you can check out my review, but I just thought it was a bit of a dip. Let's just jump into this. So, given that we had the big reveal of Agatha being the villain all along, as the song said in the last episode, this episode we get a little bit of backstory on Agatha. I think there's more there to talk about, but we do get a slightly fuller backstory on Wanda, the whole episode is really just a deconstruction of Wanda, right? So like a lot of people have just been saying, like, even going into WandaVision, hey, this show should be about like Wanda's grief about Vision, and I hope we see that. And this episode basically was like just all about Wanda's grief and how she dealt with it. And there's some interesting stuff to talk about there. One of the main things is that, like, when Wanda saw Vision and Pietro as they really are, I always assumed that she was like animating their bodies and casting this illusion over them to make it look like they weren't, dead, and she was just seeing that illusion faded back. But turns out she was just like, maybe it's part of her subconscious doing it or something, but as it turns out, those were just projections entirely, and their real bodies are elsewhere, and we'll get back to that in a little bit. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, especially like Vision, because if it was like, I theorized in the past that the reason Vision was against Wanda was because Wanda basically animated Vision's body, and Vision basically, since he's a computer, while Wanda was basically his power source, he was able to develop and evolve past being completely dependent on Wanda, and was able to think for himself. But that does not seem to be the case here, because Vision entirely is a construct created by Wanda, right? And there's a whole question with her kids about the same thing, which that's a whole different conversation. But basically, it's kind of this weird thing where it's like, well, why was Vision acting out against Wanda? Why was he doing things that Wanda didn't want him to do, if he really is like, if he really is just a construct of Wanda? And I think it's supposed to be Wanda's subconscious, her guilt about taking over people's minds, is what's feeding into Vision. Because I don't know, maybe Wanda's subconscious is thinking, okay, the only person that Wanda will listen to in regards to this is Vision, so we have to talk to her through Vision and tell her that what she's doing is wrong, that kind of thing. It's also interesting because we do find out, like, so throughout the entire thing, it was kind of hinted that Wanda was the villain, and then at the very end of the last episode, it was like, oh, Agatha is really the villain. And while she is a villain, I was expecting her to be pulling more of the strings. Like, she manipulated some events, she brought in Quicksilver, but really, like, Wanda still created everything, and I think the way they pulled that off was really good, and she just kind of took advantage of the events to, like, try to get Wanda's power, which was something a lot of people were theorizing. I was thinking that it was like her trying to get Wanda's kids. I guess that's wrong. They still got one more episode to figure it out. Maybe I am right after all, but I doubt it. So, yeah, it's overall interesting that Agatha isn't really the villain, but, and neither is Wanda. Like, Agatha's evil and wants something from Wanda, but, she just wants to know how Wanda got so powerful. And the real stakes here is, what's Agatha gonna do with that power? But the question here is, is there going to be a secret villain revealed next episode to really be the villain? And I think not really, and here's why. I think that it's way too late. Like, this episode was their last chance to introduce a new character to be the villain. And because they didn't do that, they're not going to do it next episode. But with that being said, Hayward could be the villain. A lot of people have been maybe saying that maybe he's Mephisto or Mordo or whoever in disguise, and I think that honestly kind of fits in this situation. Like, first of all, he encouraged Wanda to animate Vision before all of this stuff happened, which is a big red flag for me. And on top of all that, he created White Vision, which is basically what he is in the comics, which is in the comics as well. There was a time where Vision came back after the Infinity Stone was taken out of his skull, and he was back and had his powers again, at least as far as I know. But he was completely white because he didn't have like the power that afforded him from, I think it's the Mind Stone that he got his powers from. I want to say, maybe I'm mixing up my stones, but that's what I think. It's interesting too because, I mean, first of all, we don't know what's happening with the Construct Division in Wanda's bubble. Something interesting about this episode is that because it focuses so heavily on Agatha and Wanda, anything, like, none of the other characters get any airtime. So, like, Vision, like, we saw him just kind of disappear going looking for Wanda in last episode. He doesn't show up. Monica and Quicksilver, they don't show up at all, even though they were right at the end of last episode. And Randall Park isn't there. Like, what the heck, guys? Why isn't Randall Park in every single episode? This is really disappointing, not gonna lie. But anyway, I think it is. So Hayward is creating this guise of, oh, we have to create this big weapon with Vision. But I think it's something bigger than that, something more sinister that's going on, and he'll probably be revealed as the actual villain, or at the very least, he'll, even if he hasn't been manipulating events in the background, he'll end up rising to be the greater threat than Agatha, who maybe, who knows, maybe she'll show up in later movies, maybe she'll be the villain of Multiverse of Madness. We don't really know, but Hayward, I think, will end up being the final threat in the next episode. But something to talk about here is there are rumors, actually, that there's going to be a 10th episode of WandaVision. Now, these rumors started, I believe, as soon as it was announced that there were going to be 2 episodes premiering on the same day. People were like, wait, there's a week between the finale of WandaVision and the premiere of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Could this mean there's a secret 10th episode of WandaVision? And that was dumb. But now, as we get closer and things aren't quite wrapped up, I could maybe see them doing this big reveal at the end of, oh, there's actually a 10th episode. It's worth noting that I want to say it was the Marvel Studios Twitter, but it was definitely like an official Marvel-related Twitter account that tweeted out this morning, only 2 episodes left when promoting episode 8 today. And the big question people were asking was, oh, well, do they include episode 8 in that? Or, like, it was in their phrasing, it almost felt like they were saying there were 2 more episodes after episode 8, which was really interesting. Maybe they slipped up. Maybe it was maybe it was just like a bad way of phrasing things. We don't know. We'll have to find out. But, just as an example, maybe the 10 or 6 episode thing is actually maybe a standard for these MCU shows, and they've just been treating it as like an aiming point because they don't want to reveal that WandaVision has 10 episodes instead of 9. But, we'll have to see. I'm not saying, oh yeah, definitely. I'm just saying, keep your eye out for that. Maybe they will reveal at the end of next week's episode that there will be an episode 10. Though if you do go into it thinking about that, it'll make for a weird viewing experience because the whole time you'll be like, okay, should I be going into this as a finale or as the penultimate episode? But yeah, that's pretty much it for my review of this week's episode. I think it was really good. Some great stuff to talk about. Let me know your thoughts of episode 8 in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe for daily videos on the franchises you love, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.